Hey everybody, today it's going to be the best case scenario for Donald Trump in the upcoming election. We already took a look at the best case scenario for Harris. So this is going to be the best reasonable case scenario for Trump. It's not going to be some kind of a super improbable landslide. I might take a look at this one more time before the actual election. We've still got well over a month to go, and there's a lot that could change here in the final few weeks. And always keep in mind, a lot of these ratings are going to be borderline lean likely or likely safe. So your map is probably going to look a little bit different, even though your margins might be similar. So while we go over this, we're going to start by filling out the obvious safe states. And these are going to be 10 or more point margins. Now, while we fill those in, this is going to assume it's a more red wave type of national environment. It's going to assume Harris sinks a little bit and Trump outperforms the polling like he did in 16 and 20. So in a lot of these, he's going to match his margins in 2016, and he's going to do at least a few points better in most of these states than the current polling might be showing. So even on a great night for Trump, I don't think the West Coast is going to budge, and on the East Coast, pretty much all those states are going to stay safe. A few months ago, there was some talk about maybe New Jersey or even New York getting down under 10. I always thought that was too much of a stretch, even when it was Biden still in the race. At this point, it would be pretty tough to see any of those get actually down under 10. I would guess that New Jersey would be the first to get down into single digits, but even in this scenario, that just seems a little bit too unreasonable. Maybe in another month or so things change, but for now, they're all going to stay safe. And the safe states for Trump, and not really much of a surprise. Almost all of these would go safe on a regular night for Trump, but on a great night, there's a few more that are just going to hit double digits. First, it's going to be Iowa and Ohio. Those were close to 10 last time. In this scenario, I think they would get over that hump. And then last safe one for Trump is going to be Texas. And this was very borderline for me. It's just right at about 10 points. I almost kept it at likely. This would assume South Texas gets a lot redder. And in the suburbs, Trump stops the bleeding and reverses it by a couple of points. The polling 4 years ago underestimated Trump by over 4 points. So in this, I think there's just enough there to say it could hit 10 points. And the last vote going safe for Trump is going to be up in Maine's 2nd congressional district. Trump won it last time by about 7.5 points, even though the polling showed it close to even. This is the kind of district that Trump has done well in. So in this, he's going to do a few points better, and it's going to go safe. Now we can go down to the likely states, and these are going to be between 5 and 10 point margins. For Kamala Harris, she's going to get Colorado and New Mexico. Colorado is just barely under 10 points. I think that state has gotten so blue. Trump is not at all who they're looking for there, but I guess if he has a great night, it could get down to 9.5 points. New Mexico is closer to going leans, but it's at about 5 to 5.5 points for me. That would be a significant improvement on his margin here in 2020, which was over 10. It's not really one of the major battlegrounds. It's not going to get much attention, but if he has a great night, I think he could put a big dent in that margin, but it's still going to be likely for Harris. Now the likely states for Trump, this time there's only going to be one state, and that's going to be Florida. And I've got this at about 9 points right now. Again, that would be a decent improvement over his 2020 margin. And those polls actually showed Biden carrying the state. I know 2022 was a big red wave here, but every election is different. The turnout is going to be a lot higher. And I definitely did not think DeSantis would win by 19 points a couple of years ago. So maybe in the end it looks even redder and he gets it up to 11 or 12 points. But for right now, I think high single digits seems to be the fairest margin. There's just about a 1 point difference between Texas and Florida, but they do have different ratings. Now let's go down to the lean states. And let's start with Harris. She's going to get 4 states. First in the Northeast, she's going to get Maine at large. This would pretty much match the total that Trump got here in 2016. It's under 5 points, but it's not way under. I don't think there would be enough here to flip the state, but he would get it down to a lean margin. Then next door, New Hampshire. Trump almost won it in 16. It wasn't even close in 20. In this, he's going to have a big improvement. This is going to be low single digits, probably about 1.5 to 2 points. Right now, it's tough for me to imagine the state flipping, but it's possible things can change. Then continuing down the East Coast, we've got Virginia. This one just gets under 5 for me, probably about 4 to 4.5 points. Even that might be a bit of a stretch considering how far the state has moved toward the left. But this is a great night for Trump. This assumes he makes some gains in Northern Virginia. The red counties come out big for him, and he still loses his state by at least 4 points. And the last lean state for Harris is going to be Minnesota. This was very close in 16. Trump lost it by about 1.5. And like New Hampshire in 2020, it took a big step toward Biden. With Tim Walz on the ticket, I don't think this state could flip. I think it would get down to about 2 points. That is technically competitive, but unless Trump makes some decent gains in Hennepin and Ramsey, or the suburbs get a lot redder, I don't think there'd be enough here to flip the state. Now the lean states for Trump. Let's start in North Carolina. This one I previously had is just getting over 5 points and going likely. I do think the polling has underestimated Trump and other Republicans here in the past. It's been very competitive as of late. Harris is even leading in some of the polls. It's a pretty even state here, even though Republicans have had a lot more success. I want to see what happens in the final few weeks of polling, but for right now, I'll take it down to leans for Trump, but we're going to say it's about 4.75%. Now we've got Georgia. Here's a state that's moved toward the left. Republicans have fallen short in a lot of key races here over the past 4 years. They have had success for governor, so this is going to assume those suburban Atlanta trends move back back toward Trump a little bit. It's not too much of a stretch given the popularity of the party in power. We know the Trump brand has been a bad fit there, but in this scenario, he's going to get the state by at least 3 or 4 points, so it's going to go leans. Then we could jump over to the Grand Canyon state and look at Arizona. There are some similarities here with Georgia. The Phoenix suburbs, not really a big fan of Trump, and Republicans have come up short in some big races here. But immigration is a top concern here. That issue tends to favor Donald Trump. Maybe in the end they think he's too hard, Harris is more moderate, and he loses the state. But in this scenario, again, the suburbs are going to move a little bit back toward the right. Trump's going to carry the state by more than 4 points, and he's going to get it by a lean rating. In Nevada, Trump is probably still going to lose Clark and Washoe counties, but if he keeps the red counties dark red and he improves in Clark by a couple of points, he's definitely going to flip the state, and it's going to be by at least a few points, so it's also going to go leans. And last, we've got the Rust Belt states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. They all went for Trump in 16, they all went for Biden in 20. The reddest of the three, I would think, would be Wisconsin. I know the current polling has shown that to be the bluest, but that's also the state that Trump has been underestimated in by the most. In the midterms, they elected Democrats and Republicans statewide. So in this best case scenario, I think it's pretty easy to say he would get all three of these by a lean rating. The final electoral vote is going to be Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. On some maps, if this goes red, there could be a 269 tie. But in this, I think it's going to be just a little bit too much for Trump to be able to flip. It's not impossible, but I have it as a tilt, about 1 point going to Harris. So the final total is Donald Trump wins it with 312, Kamala Harris gets 226. And I think I'm pretty satisfied with this map. You could make some tweaks in Texas, maybe New Mexico, maybe North Carolina, maybe even New Hampshire. But this is, again, going to assume that Trump outperforms the polling by at least a couple of points. He's not at all going to bleed support in the suburbs. He's going to actually make some gains there. He's going to get strong turnout in those deep red counties that he needs. He'd make some gains with black and Hispanic voters. And overall, voters are just more unsatisfied with inflation and immigration. The issues of abortion and Trump's personality, they end up not just carrying that much weight. And that's how Trump is able to sweep all the battleground states. So this might be it, or maybe I take a look at this one more time close to the election. And I know there's going to be a range of different takes on this, but let me know in the comments, what do you think about this best case scenario for Trump? Does your map look even redder than this? Or even on a best case scenario, do you still have him losing a couple more of these states? Let me know down below. On your way out, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.